Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Globally Connected Podcast. We're here for another great episode where we'll be talking about reverse engineering. So, to start us off, I'm going to provide, for those who may not know, just a general definition of reverse engineering. So, reverse engineering is when you set a goal. For example, I want to gain 40 pounds. So you start backwards from how you're actually going to achieve the goal of gaining 40 pounds, and you set strategies on how you're going to execute from the end until the beginning, and you work it that way. But you got to be consistent. But that's a Jerome definition of reverse engineering. Gigi, I'll pass it to you so you can provide more context of reverse engineering and just give more a general synopsis of what we'll be talking about on today's episode.
Yeah, thank you. So, as Jerome stated, today we'll talk about reverse engineering your goals and why this is important. So, when we see like all of us have goals, all of us have dreams, we all have things that we want to attain, and it's not necessarily a lack of motivation that's holding people back. Sometimes it can be, but it is not always a lack of motivation. Sometimes it's actually like a lack of clarity or vision. So that's actually the reason why we're going to discuss reverse engineering today, because this can actually help you create a more solid and concrete plan for achieving your goals rather than having like the emotional will to do so and the desire to do so, but not having the actual clarity in terms of what steps you will take to get there. So, what we will discuss in reverse engineering is um, what it takes to get to your goals, as in reverse engineering, meaning that you start with your end goal. Like Jerome stated, you want to gain 40 pounds. You start with that ideal weight that you want to be at, and what steps, like working backwards to get there. So, say you want to get to 240, what would you have to be at 200, for example, to get there? Like maybe you need to take in protein, maybe you need to hit the gym more, increase your calories, etc. You need to take a look at what the end result is and deconstructing each step by step to get there. And the purpose of this reverse engineering is to actually eliminate all of the unrealistic planning and the ideation that's just like without a solid concrete plan, and actually have concrete steps implemented with time, your resources, and your energy. So that's the topic for today and what reverse engineering from my perspective is.
So, you want to also start by you providing as an example of you setting a goal and doing a reverse engineering and vice versa. You want
Yeah,
to kick?
absolutely. Yeah, so as we stated with reverse engineering, the first thing first is that you have to understand what does your goal look like and feel like. That's the number one thing. Like you have to start with that end part. Like literally imagine yourself like you are already there where you want to be. And even like journaling can help out, like writing out your ideal situation of where you want to be, because this is actually probably the number one core thing to get there for this to actually work is you have to have a clear vision of what you want. So, an example I will give, for example, is I knew that within a couple of months from the time where I had set this goal, I wanted to physically be living in Bangkok, right? So, for me to actually physically be living in this location, what do I reverse engineer to get there? So step by step by step. Well, one, I'm going to need a place, right? I'm going to need a place, but to have a place, I'm going to need a town. And to have a town, I'm going to need to understand proximities of locations and what makes sense. And I'll also need to take into account like visa and paperwork and bank accounts and things like that. So having that end goal helped me work backwards from physically being in the US all the way down to the step of booking that flight to actually get there physically. Like I had to have all those steps kind of set in place and have a plan. And similarly to how project managers operate, is having a backwards timeline. So I know the date that I want to physically be in Bangkok, this is just an example, was say March 1st or something. That was the date I physically wanted to be there. So do I need to do to get there on that date? And I need to set a legit timeline for myself. And legit timeline means I need to, if I think something's going to take me 1 week, maybe it'll actually take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because a lot of project managers out there know, when you set a time for something, it's usually going to be more than what you think it's going to be. Because um, when you get into the nitty gritty details, it's always going to get a little more extreme. So that's the approach that I took, is working backwards and creating a backwards timeline. Like, okay, so then if by March 1st I want to be there, then by February 10th, I need to have my visa application submitted. And by, you know, I don't know, January, I need to book my flight, etc. So that's an example of a time that I've reversed engineered and the steps that I took. How about you, Jerome? I know you practice this all the time and it's very inspirational. So I think you definitely have great insight to share on this. Like, what's an experience that you've reversed engineered, and how did you get there?
For me, I'll just start simple, real small. So for me, working out 4 times a week, this is actually something that I have done since 2023. So for 2.5 years, I work out 4 times a week. And so the goal is 4 times a week, right? So what I do is I don't set a designated time. I start with just throughout the day, this is something that I'm going to do. So I start with, I don't set a time. I just do it. Put it on my calendar as a task to do. Second, I write down the workouts that I'm going to do for the day. I do those. Third, I reward myself for actually completing that task. So once I complete the workout, and I've done it sick, tired, all types of things. I may take myself out on a walk on the park, take myself to get some ice cream, something. But the third thing is I reward myself so that I could tell my subconscious self consciously that, hey, I was able to stick to a goal. And then I just repeat that same process. So that's something that I do for working out. Writing, that's something that I've been so inconsistent with and struggling with. I go in and out of loops. So now what I do is I think about the long term goal. So the long term goal for writing is to procure a $1 million distribution film deal, right? So I said, okay, that's the goal. That's the end goal. So how am I going to get to that end goal? Number one, I got to write every day. Number two, I have to think about why am I doing this. So for me, the reason is number one is my mom. Number two is for economic freedom. That's the second thing. The third thing is what is it going to look like for me to write? Do I write 30 minutes a day? Do I set a time limit? I don't set a time limit. I just write. It don't matter if it's one sentence, two sentences, three sentences. As long as I can say I wrote, that's going to put into my mind that I wrote, no matter what. And the mind processes and receives everything that you tell it. And then the fourth thing is I share with other people, because the reason why I do that is because other people are going to get feedback, and it's going to keep me on my toes. But whatever I'm writing, is it an audience for this particular genre or topic that I'm talking about? So yeah, those are some of my actual strategies that I do when I set goals, and I reverse engineer myself back from the end to the beginning to achieve them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great example. And just to piggyback off of Jerome's example, so he mentioned that his goal with writing is to get that $1 million deal. So as you see, that is like very specific. Like he knows the value of that deal and he knows what he's looking for. It's not just I'm gonna become a successful writer. He's like actually specifically talking about what he wants. So then now when he's reverse engineering, what is that one step before getting that $1 million deal? It's going to be to have these prospect investors that would invest in this, that would want that. So then how is he going to be in the same rooms as these people? So he's reverse engineering it to get to like those steps. And he's starting with the writing consistently, with getting that feedback, and it's all going to build to that goal because he's going step by step and he's gone backwards on the timeline. So I have some questions for the audience for you guys to ask yourself. And the purpose of these questions is to help guide you to actually understand what your goal is and how you can work backwards on it. So, what exactly does success look like for you? And can you describe it in one detailed sentence? Okay. And if you have already achieved this goal, so imagine that you have already achieved this goal, right? What would your life look like today? What would your business look like? What would your daily habits look like? Who would be around you? What is that ideal vision? And you can even like write a journal entry if you'd like about what this will be. And how will you actually know when that goal is complete? Like, what is that success metric that you can measure to know that, okay, I've accomplished this goal? Now that you've identified this actual, you know what your vision is and where you're headed, now you've got to actually work backwards. Again, with that, what is that one last step before that goal becomes real? Like, what's that one final step before you get that $1 million deal? What is that one final step before you actually are physically in the location that you want to be? What is that one last step before you're actually at your goal weight? And what would you need to start doing now to make that possible in blank days, however many days you're giving yourself? If you have a 3 month timeline, 6 month timeline, 1 year timeline, of course that's dependent on your goal, and of course you have to do realistic planning, right? So, where do most people underestimate the work that is required, and how can you avoid that? For instance, what are you going to think is going to take 2 weeks and but is actually going to take 4 weeks? And how can you take that into account when you're doing your planning? What are the skills that you're going to need? What are the resources? What are the people that you will need to get to the next step? So that's some questions that I will leave you guys with to ponder with for your reverse engineering for your personal goal. Jerome, do you have some questions to add for this?
I have some pointers to add. So I agree with everything you said, but I want to provide something for the audience to think about. You know why a lot of times people don't, and this is subjective, but I think, and let me know what you think. I think a lot of times why sometimes we as humans don't achieve the goals that we set, and even if we do a reverse engineering, it's because we don't have fun. So I want to say for the audience, have fun with your goals. You know, be serious, but at the same time, have fun. Because at the end of the day, when you achieve something, you celebrate anyway. So why not have fun doing the process?
Mhm.
So that's something I want to say as far as questions. What is the purpose behind this goal? Like, what is the what is the why? Start with the why. You know, if you're doing it for money, I mean, that's your reason. Cool, but you gotta have an intention and a purposeful intention, or your purpose and your reason on why you setting this goal and your process for reverse engineering it. So I would just say those are the things that I would like to add.
Great point. Yeah, for sure. I think like keeping your energy levels high and happy and enjoying life throughout the process is going to be key to even reaching your goals too, because you can't pour from an empty cup, and you got to celebrate your small wins too. So that's why when you break down into like small milestones out of this larger goal, when you achieve something, you know you've achieved it, and you can celebrate those wins. Like, and it's very important. So. Yeah, and get feedback from the people around you and from the people involved in this goal that you have to accomplish as well.
Yes, community is key. Also, that's a great point. Community is key when actually setting a goal and reverse engineering your way back to it. Do you have community? Let's call each other out. Do you have community when it comes to setting goals? And I
Oh
want
yeah, I do. I do. Thankfully, I'm grateful too. Like, and I think the community is constantly changing and growing too with the goals, because based on what project I'm working on or based on who is going to be impacted, like I'll meet a new group of people that become my community, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't even know that I was like positively impacting like these people's lives as well. Like this is cool. So I learn from different communities as well as I'm like going out there, you know?
Yeah, that's good because that's another thing. Community is key when setting goals. These are things that I'm not sure if people talk about it enough, but community is good. So that was a point that I wanted to mention for you all as the audience to consider. Just
Yeah.
have a community and support system and have fun. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. So, are there any closing pointers you'd like to make to the audience about reverse engineering and what they can do and any motivations or steps they should take?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to start with the mindset. What is your mindset? Like last night, I was watching Michael Jordan as a basketball player. If for you all who don't know, and he played in a finals game where he experienced flu-like symptoms. And for those who know, flu-like symptoms is a lot of times if you have it, you don't even want to get out of the bed. But this guy literally played more than 30 minutes in a basketball game and willed his way to actually win the game and hit the game winning shot with flu like symptoms. You know why? Because of his mindset. His mindset was no matter what, my goal is to help and lead my team to actually win this finals game and win this championship. So I can't take no off days. So his basketball repetition, his basketball practice, everything that he put into work to actually achieve that goal, he reverse engineered that back into actually winning the game. And what was the ultimate result? They won the championship. And that was his last championship.
Wow.
So I say all that to say that mindset is gonna get you through every single day. Whether you sick, whether you don't feel like it, whatever is that negative obstacle, always have a positive mindset. And that's my lasting thoughts on that.
No, that's inspiring. That's really inspiring. So, yeah, guys, thank you guys for tuning into our episode where we discuss reverse engineering, how you can realistically achieve your goals. And, we encourage you guys to create a timeline of where you want to be and set timelines and a date and set an actual concrete sentence of what you want to achieve, and we suggest that you work backwards from there on each step necessary to get there. And be detail oriented. Don't just think in terms of like the vision aspect, but also the logic aspect. Like who needs to be in that room specifically? How many products do you need to sell specifically of whatever product you're creating to reach your sales? So think in that and then reverse engineer it backwards to get to where you want to be. As always, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we wish you a splendid rest of your week.